hi, hello, how are you, I'm Pia? Today I'm going to be reading the first chapter of every single book on my physical TBR. Obviously heavily inspired by Books and Lala. Kayla did this video, I'm gonna say last year, but I kind of have been waiting until it's the end of the year. It's the end of 2023, beginning of 2024 to do this because I thought I would get my physical TBR down. Now, I am not someone who reads a lot of physical books, surprisingly enough. Like, I don't buy a lot of books, so books kind of stay on my TBR for a long time, and I think that this would just be a good way to like gauge my interest level, if I should just get rid of some of these books, if I should read them as soon as possible, whether or not any of those things are true. I'm just gonna be testing out them by reading the first chapter. I'm gonna be basically rating them on a scale of 1 to 10 of how much I want to read the next chapter, and walking you through some of my thoughts about the first chapter of all of these books. So I have about 30 books, a little more, on my physical TBR. I'm not going to be doing this with sequels because that will obviously be spoilers. So I do have a couple sequels that I won't be getting to. And I'm also only talking about the books that I have here at my like childhood home and not the ones that I have at my apartment, which are like, honestly, like I think I have like 10 unread books there. So like I would have done it for all those, but I didn't want to bring them all here and like have to do this. I keep all of my unread books in the shelves that you guys can't see, and I am going to just pick one up. We might as well start with things that I've gotten the most recently. So I have here Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the Way of Kings series. Is that what it's called? The Stormlight Archives. Thank you. The first book was The Way of King, which I read very recently, and I just like needed to get the— I'm not telling you why I bought this book. I'm telling you I very recently acquired this book. Like, I got this after Thanksgiving. So I'm gonna read the first chapter, which it looks like there's a prologue. Okay, the prologue is like 12 pages. So I'm gonna read those 12 pages. Hopefully things are around the same length for the chapters, but you never know. So I'm gonna read those first 12 pages and then hit you back with how I'm feeling. We're on my floor now because I realized I was like, where am I gonna read all these chapters and like film? So I'm sitting on my floor. So this is the bottom of my bookshelf. But I read the first 12 pages and I have to say, like, it started kind of slow, and I was like, I very much have like a favorite character. And since this is a sequel, like, I don't want to tell you like who that is because it might spoil like events of the first book. But I have a favorite character, and like it wasn't from my favorite character's perspective, so I was like noticeably bored. But it also was a flashback. I was like 6 years ago, but it definitely like set a lot of stuff up and like gave me the context of like getting back in the world, which I appreciated. I had to like remember who was who and like what the family tree is. This is a book that I was already planning on like basically starting the year off with, but I would say that for how much I want to read the next chapter, I'd say about a 7. Just like knowing all the events of the previous book, like I'm very, very excited to like continue on with the series. But I think for what that chapter gave me, it gave me a little bit of context and not much else. So I would give it a 7. We're gonna read the first chapter of the Da Vinci Code. This is a book, it's not my book. Oh gosh, why does it look like this? I've literally never opened this book. This is not my book, it's my dad's book, but he has been like wanting me to read the Da Vinci Code for years, like since I started reading, since I could pick up a book. Why does it look like this? Okay, this one also has a prologue, and the prologue is— I really hate the format of this book. Okay, the prologue is literally like 3 pages, so maybe I'll read the prologue and the first chapter. Yeah, that'll be 12 pages, so it'll be the exact same length. Hopefully I'm just gonna always be reading about 12 pages. Can you like tell how like randomly weirdly sized this is? I thought it was annoying to hold the Words of Radiance. It's annoying to hold this. I have no idea what this is about, so I'm going in completely blind. So hopefully it has a fun first chapter. Okay, so I just finished the first chapter. So there's the prologue, which is like the like heist situation with the curator. And then you get the first chapter, which is like our main character, who's like this Harvard guy, and he's wrote a lot of books, and his voice is like chocolate. So like we're obsessed with him. He's hot. He's Harrison Ford. Dan Brown is really trying to sell us this man. And he gets called by the police to like help investigate what the frick happened at the Louvre. It's really weird. Like, I mean, this was fast to read because it's like, it's really big, but there's a lot of like, the text doesn't cover the whole page, and there's a lot of like, hold on, there's a lot of like pictures, and the text is normal like book size. I also don't know why there are pictures. The pictures are so like, it's like someone giving like a slideshow presentation. It's like they were in the Louvre, picture of Louvre. It's like, it's kind of silly, but it definitely reads fast. It's easy to read. It's very like, the language is very simple. I'd give it a 6. Like, I'm intrigued because I honestly don't know anything about this book, and now that I know how easy it is to read, I think that's a definite like bonus for me. The actual like prologue and chapter that I read didn't give me enough that I'm like dying to get to the next chapter, and like I could have read the blurb. I'm giving it a 6. I'm giving it a 6 as of now. Next, we have another book that's not mine, but it is from one of my parents, because I so often give my parents books to read that I've already read. They also do the same for me. So this is The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina, maybe? And this, I also don't know what it's about. Oh, it has one of my bookmarks in it. I also don't know what it's about. Surprising. There's a family tree. I don't love a family tree, but that's okay. I know this is magical realism. It seems like, how long is the first chapter? Okay, the first chapter is 16 pages, so I'm going to read this and come back. I, again, have no idea what this is about. I read the first chapter of The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina, and this was so good. This was so good. I love the writing. The magical realism elements are really nicely like subtle, beautiful, and magical, and like it's coming in. And it seems like this first chapter is like kind of like a prologue chapter. Like it's not called a prologue, but it seems like it is, just because we're meeting this main character. I'm gonna stop saying her name because I'm stupid. Obviously she hasn't died, so there's no inheritance yet, but it's basically just like about her and her life, and like it is so interesting. It's so well written. Like I want to read this. I'm really excited about this. I'm happy I'm doing this video. I made a good decision. Before, when I was like, oh, I'm on book 3. I have so many books to go. I didn't realize I was gonna be reading some really good first chapters. This is a great first chapter. It's not like leaving you on a cliffhanger necessarily, but it is like really establishing the character and the world, especially like the setting is super rich in this, and I really liked it. I think I'm giving it a 9. I think I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 for intrigue, for whether or not I want to read the next chapter. I do want to read the next chapter. I do want to read the next chapter. There's one thing about me, I want to read the next chapter. Yeah, she leaves this note that's like, the stars have shifted, the earth has turned, the time is here, I am dying, come collect your inheritance. Like, what the frick? Like, obsessed. Yeah, so this is so far the best one. And then we have the last book that I think is not mine. This is a Mary Kay Andrews book, and my mom loves Mary Kay Andrews. And so she gave me this book and was like, you should read it. And this is gonna decide whether or not I'm gonna read it. It doesn't look like my thing. Just looking at it, it doesn't look like my thing, but I also don't know what it's about. Okay, the first 2 chapters are 12 pages. So I'm gonna read the first 2 chapters just to have like an even Steven metric to test this whole video. My expectations are low. We will see. Alright, so I read the first 2 chapters of Deep Dish, and I gotta be honest, like, I'm pleasantly surprised by the quality of this book. Like, it is about a girl named Gina who is running this cooking show, and it's getting canceled. And that's kind of seems like the main problem for the book. The writing's really easy, it's fun, it's not like too thinky. I'm not too thinky, am I? Yeah, it's like an easy read and like relatively interesting. I don't know when this came out, but I just had really low expectations. 2008. Okay. It's definitely like, I don't know, it feels very easy. I would give this, how likely am I? See, I'm just not likely to pick up this book, but I think now that I've read the first chapter, I'm more likely to pick it up. It has recipes in the back. It's a little long. I think I would give it like a 6. I could go either way. Like, I could read the next chapter, I could not read this book. Like, I don't think I'm gonna get anything really great out of it if I read it, other than like fun. So, oh my gosh, I just remembered I own classics that I haven't read. That is a real thought. Okay. Next up is Heidi. Of course, never read Heidi, but I have all the Puffin and Bloom editions, so I should read it. This is my mom's favorite, like, children's classic. And I don't even know what it's about, to be honest. Oh, and there's pictures! That's exciting. It looks like it's about 16 pages, so around the same, and it's like big font and small. So Heidi looked around with growing delight at the mountain peaks she knew so well, and which seemed to greet her like old friends. So cute. Okay. So I read the first chapter of Heidi, and we kind of get the whole like setup of the story, which is Heidi is an orphan. She's 5 years old, and she has been living with her aunt, and she no longer wants to take care of her. And so she's going to be sent off to Uncle Alp, who's like her great uncle, and he's kind of like hermit. Like, that's kind of like how they talk about him. He's just like lives up in the mountains, doesn't talk to anyone. And yeah, and it seems like Heidi has quite a spirit to her. Yeah, it's just kind of like a different type of gal. She's not like other gal. I would give this, see, the thing is like with this and like children's classics in general, I can really see where it's going, and because of that I don't like feel like I need to turn the page. I think I'll give it a 6. A 6. I definitely want to read it in my lifetime, and it's relatively short, and I do feel like I just have to like have read Heidi. Like, it seems like I should do that, but it's not gripping me. It's not Anne of Green Gablesing me, you know? Like, comparing this to Anne of Green Gables, I'm like, that first chapter, like if I were to include that first chapter in this, it would be a 10. It would be a 10. But it's also my favorite book. So the next book is I think the only other classic that I have here. I do have a couple other classics in my apartment, but that's not for this video. I have The Girl with the Pearl Earring. I bought this a library sale, I think. It was $2. And that was probably like 5 years ago. Do I need to read this? I don't know. I never read it in school, so like, do I need to read it? I don't know. Oh, let's see how long the first chapter is. Oh, it's still going. Oh, it's still going. Oh, don't you worry. It's still going. LOL. Watch this book not have chapters. I'm just like, I go through the whole book. Okay, anyway, I got to like page 50 and I was like, absolutely not. So I'm gonna read the first, let's see if there's like a break. There's a break on page 10. So I'm gonna read until the break on page 10. I could see myself reading this. I could see myself not reading this. Like, I don't really think about it. Girl with the pearl earring. We've got a girl. She so far doesn't have a pearl earring. We have Gret. And she's about to become a maid for a painter. And that's kind of the setup of the book, is her having, or that's the first 10 pages, is that she has to do this because her father can't work anymore and she needs to like provide for her family. So I'm gonna give this a 4 for intrigue. I think it's written well. Like, I mean, it's a classic. Like, what am I gonna say? I'm not like plot wise, it didn't give me enough to like really sink my teeth into, like, and really get a feel for like how the story will unfold. So I think that is something. It's also like, why is it giving me Da Vinci Code? Why is it a book about a painting? Like, I don't know. Let me know if I should unhaul this. If any of these books you're like, you should unhaul that, let me know. So the next book I have is Winter Garden. I have had this again for too long, but it is World War II, set in World War II and also set in 2000 in World War II Russia. And this is by Kristen Hanna, who wrote The Nightingale, which I really enjoyed, and Firefly Lane, which I really enjoyed. So I think I gave both of those like 4 stars. In a perfect world, I would love this book. In a perfect world, I would read this book. It looks like it has a prologue. The prologue is set in 1972, which I think is interesting. The prologue is 9 pages. And then the first chapter is set in 2000. I think I'm gonna read the prologue and then up until the page break on 17. But it seems like there's many timelines. It says on the back 1941 and 2000, but it starts in 1972. So it's lying. So, beginning of Winter Garden, we have the 2 timelines, and then I believe we're gonna go back in time to the 40s, I think. Like, I believe we're gonna go back to the 40s. I have yet to see it. So, the first chapter is set in the 70s, and it is basically Meredith, our main character's, like, childhood, and they put on this play, and it really upsets their mother, who has told them these fairy tales, and she's like, they are not silly, you know, like, obviously they're based on something real, and what's real is probably World War II. And so they're like forgetting about the fairy tales. So I believe that like in the present timeline, which is the 2000 timeline, they will have to kind of come to a more realization about the reality of the fairy tales that they were told, what exactly like their mother went through as well, because like she's definitely affected by things, and like it's giving that like sister relationship, which is very similar to The Nightingale and the multiple timelines as well, which is kind of like a Kristen Hanna thing. I'm definitely more intrigued to read it now. I kind of forgot I own this book. So I think I would give it a 6 for intrigue. This is like, I don't really know anything about Leningrad. It also has a love story apparently, but I don't really know about like World War II Russia. So it seems like an interesting thing. I do enjoy reading about this era of historical fiction as well. But I always like what Kristen Hanna does with her historical fictions, like weaving in the different timelines. The Beekeeper of Aleppo, which was gifted to me. I don't know what this is about at all, but it won Aspen Words Literary Prize, so that's exciting. So I'm gonna read the first chapter. I do have to split this video up over a couple days because there's something about reading first chapters and like feels more like reading a whole book. I read the first chapter of The Beekeeper of Aleppo, and so far what we know is that we are following a man and his wife who is blind, and he has to take care of her, and he used to be a beekeeper. That's all we know. I gotta be honest, like this one is gonna be like a 3. Like, oh, it's not doing anything for me. It's not like starting with a bang. It's not starting with a lot of like context. It just kind of started. I don't love it, so that's a 3. To break up some of the historical fiction, we're gonna go into a different book, and we're gonna go to Black Girl Unlimited. I know it's part memoir, part like fantasy fantastical, magical, speculative. I've heard it compared to Harry Potter. That is all I know about it. I have a bookmark in here because I definitely was planning on reading it at some point. But did that happen? No, sir, it did not. It has a Maya Angelou quote in the beginning, which we love. We love to see that. Okay, it's 14 pages. So I'm gonna read the first chapter. It's called Building the Perfect Shell, and I will let you know once I have started it. Is there anything fun on the dust jacket? Under the dust jacket? No. So I think I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. I am really intrigued. I really like memoirs, and this one is seeming very well written, and I really like the kind of comparisons to magic that it is having. Like, it's definitely a metaphor, but I think that it's an interesting way to tell a memoir. We're beginning with our main character, who I don't think is named in the beginning, but I think it's just Echo Brown, who's the author. She is 6 years old in the beginning, and her like apartment is on fire, and her mom is unresponsive, and then she's just having kind of all these memories of like her kindergarten class and like a field trip they went on, and her first funeral she went to, and stuff about her stepfather, and just going into a bunch of memories while this event is happening. And I really liked it. I think it starts off well and exciting is maybe the wrong word. I guess like gripping in that scene, and then going back and filling in the gaps of like, this is my mother, this is why she's a wizard, and this is why I believe I have magic too, and these are the parts of me that are magic, these are the wishes that I'm making, and I really like it. It's a debut, but oh my gosh, talented people, I swear. But yeah, I'm really actually intrigued to read this. I've definitely, now that I've read the first chapter, I'm definitely super intrigued to keep reading. We have a couple more historical fiction. So next is The Alice Network. This is a book my mom gave me, and I don't know anything about it. 1947, World War II, American college girl is pregnant, unmarried, on the verge of being thrown out of her proper family, and she's nursing in desperate hope that her beloved cousin Rose, who disappeared in Nazi-occupied France during the World War, might still be alive, and she's banished to Europe. And then it's set also in 1915 during the Great War, following someone who's joining the fight against the Germans, and her codename is Alice. It's called The Alice Network. Did I say that? I don't know. Okay, so the first chapter is following Charlie, so this is the 1947 timeline. It's 22 pages, so I'm going to... Okay, there's a page break on page 12, so I'm gonna read until the page break on page 12. Okay, so 12 pages in, and I think I'm giving it a 4. I think this would be a really good, like, movie so far, or like show, because I feel like it reads that way. There's parts of the writing and stuff that aren't just like clicking with me, and the character herself is not like hitting. I think another thing is that our main character, or there's two main characters, there's two timelines. What is it? Charlie is 19 and like I'm 21. I think the other main character is like a similar age, but like I'm not like believing that she's 19. She doesn't like speak or act that way. I don't know, maybe like over the course of the book she'll be that, but like I don't know, I feel like when you're 19 you have a level of maturity, but you're also very immature. But yeah, I'm giving it a 4 because it's not really doing anything for me at the moment. But like I would watch this movie. I would watch this movie for sure. Last historical fiction I have here is kind of like an alternate historical fiction, which is Wolf by Wolf, which I know is about a alternate reality where Hitler won World War II, and there is this like motorcycle racing competition where the winner of the competition gets to meet Hitler, and our main character wants to win the competition to kill Hitler. I do actually know what this is about, and I do know it has a sequel, but I have had this on my TBR for like over 5 years. So what are the odds? What are the odds I will read the sequel? First chapter is 10 pages, so I'm going to hop into it. I think it's YA as well, so I think it's definitely going to have a different writing style than some of the other books. I'm intrigued. So I read the first chapter, and we are following Yael, and so we're starting where she is sent into this death camp, and she's taken prisoner, kind of like being experimented on. They're like trying to do something, like I don't know what exactly is happening, but we're starting when she's 6 years old, and I believe the majority of the book follows her when she's like in her teens, and like is doing this competition and stuff. It's really interesting. Like I really like how it's written. It's very easy language, but also like descriptive enough that that it's like descriptive, and you can feel kind of, I don't know, I really like some of the word choices of how this is described. I really like how this starts. There's like a first page that's kind of just like one like paragraph in the beginning that like kind of sets up the story. It's like the story begins on a train and like whatever, and then there's like Song of the Hitler Youth like quoted at the beginning, and it's like very much like setting up the atmosphere and the kind of framing of which the story is going to take place, and I am really intrigued, and I'm gonna give it an 8. I do want to read this book. Like, I forgot about this book. I do want to read this. Okay, the next book that I'm going to try is Separation Anxiety. And this is a book that I picked up. Why do I have so many things in this book? This is a book that I picked up at the Yellow Umbrella, which is one of my favorite bookstores, and I have a problem with buying books when I'm at bookstores, and I've gotten better at it. So this one, I don't know what it's about. I don't know. I just liked the cover. The first chapter is 11 pages. So I read the first 10 pages, read the first chapter of Separation Anxiety, and I'm actually really pleasantly surprised by this. It's reminding me a lot of Sorrow and Bliss, which is a book I read this past year. Time is escaping me. And this book is about a 50-year-old woman whose child has is, you know, going into his adolescence, going into his teenagehood, and she is feeling pretty detached from everything. And so she starts wearing her dog in a baby sling. Yeah, a baby sling, is that what it's called? I don't know. I think that's a fun concept. I really like how it's written so far, and I am liking the kind of like slice of life vibe that it's giving me, and I think I will give it a 7. The next book I have here is the Chatham School Affair. I don't read books that are mass markets very often, which is probably why it's not very intriguing to me, and that's why I haven't picked it up. But this is about it's based on a real like thing that happened. What thing? I don't know. 8 pages. The type is really weird, but okay. So this, I don't think is my thing. It's giving like classic. It's giving like it's like written like a classic, and it's set in like the 20s. I just don't think, like, to me this like looks, and like even the like description on the back cover is like giving like a easy popcorn thriller, but it's like written like it's trying to be really like saying something, and I'm giving it a 2. I'm giving it a 2. No one died in the first chapter. Also, like nothing happened. So the next book I'm gonna read is The Chalice of the Gods, Percy Jackson and the Olympians and the Chalice of the Gods, which I have had since its release, and it's signed, and I just haven't read it. I think I've read all of the Percy Jackson books on audio, to be quite fair. So like the odds of me reading this physically, I feel like, are low, but it is short and it's always been easy to read. So like, I don't know. This is, I believe, like not exact, like, because I have read some of the other Ricardo books, and I think Percy Jackson in this is like 18, and he's trying to get into college. So the first chapter is like 10 pages, and it's called I Get Flushed. So this freaking book. Okay. I think I told you what it's about. So it's exactly so far what I expected, and it's funny because like this, I don't know technically what the age category would be for this book because he is older. Percy Jackson's older, but it does definitely read like a middle grade and in the same style as the other Percy Jackson books and the other Rick Riordan books. So it's super like easy language. Like literally it starts, where is it? Like he says, honest truth, most of the time being a demigod blows chunks. Like it's not mature writing, I guess. But I love this. I'm giving this a 9. I really want to read this. It seems so fun. Like I'm so happy that like there's more Percy Jackson books. I haven't read a Percy Jackson book since I first read them, which was a couple years ago. I think I read them back in high school, so maybe more than a couple of years ago. I am a senior in college. Okay. But this does sound fun, and hopefully it is I don't know if it is the start to like a new series of Percy Jackson books or if it's just like a one-off. I don't know, but I'm giving it a 9. I very much want to read this. I am very excited to read it, and it is proving to be just as good as I hoped. So next up we have The Other Side of the Sky. Now I was going back and forth between whether or not I wanted to unhaul this because I haven't read it and I don't know if I wanted to, but I am getting more into fantasy, and I do like a YA fantasy from time to time, and this does have some romance, and I like a romantasy, so maybe. I don't know what this is about, but I know that there's a couple, and like one's a goddess or a princess. One's a goddess and one's a prince, and then there's a cat as well. Okay, the first chapter is 20 pages, so I'm gonna read the first 12 pages because that's what I've been doing. Okay, so I read 12 pages of The Other Side of the Sky, and we're beginning with the goddess's perspective, and she is living among everyone, and she is very much like expected to be this divine power, and she hasn't like proven herself yet. She hasn't like made anything crazy happen. She hasn't done anything to like prove herself, and she's getting a little bit worried about that. And that's kind of like where she's at. There's an introduction of like the magic system, which is like this mist, and she had like a powder and it made her glow. That was a thing. And then there's also gray cloaks who seem to be some sort of like negative malevolent force that she's kind of scared of. And that's kind of like where this starts. I would like to like finish the chapter which I should be doing for this video, but I'm trying to give everyone a fair chance of the first 12 pages. Oh, it's interesting that on the back, Laini Taylor also blurred this, so it's giving more, but she called it a thriller, which is really interesting. So yeah, but based on the first 12 pages, what would I give this? I think I'd give it a 7. I think I would give it a 7. I'm interested to read it. I think I'm more interested than I'm not. And I think I will read it before unhauling it or before thinking about unhauling it. Then we have Fiona and Jane. This I picked up over the summer and still haven't read it. Classic me. This is a book about best friends and their travels in New York and LA, I believe. Just about friendship, about female friendship. So the first chapter is 29 pages. LOL. This chapter is called The Night Market. So I actually found a page break. So we're starting with Jane's perspective. Okay, it is Jane. Thank you. So Jane is 18, and she's a senior in high school, and she's visiting her father in Taiwan over the summer, and she's trying to convince him to come back home. So he's been teaching in Taiwan at his alma mater for 2 years, I believe, and she is trying to convince him to come home. And that is kind of where we're starting. I really like this. Like this, it's not giving literary fiction, which I thought it was going to. It's so readable. Like it is so easy to fly through. I was like, should I just read this whole chapter? Like I kind of want to. I love books like this. Like this is exactly the type of books that I love. And like I can't wait to like meet Fiona, who like we haven't met yet, but they seem to be like best friends, and like to see I believe this spans like 20 years. It just seems so good. Like I'm honestly, I'm gonna give this a 9. I'm gonna give this a 9. Like I really want to read this, and I really want to read it. So okay, then we have another book I've had for forever, How It Feels to Float. It's a YA contemporary, and it's a hard-hitting contemporary, which is why I've kept it for so long, because I love hard-hitting contemporary. It's an arc. When did this book come out? May 2019 this book came out, so I've had it since before May 2019. Now what's that about? Oh, this is written in a different font. First chapter is 12 pages. Beautiful. Alrighty, so there aren't like chapters in this book, there are just lots of little like sections, so I just stopped at like one of the sections. And this is a book following Biz, and it is set in Australia. She is in year 11, and her father passed away when she was 7, and she's kind of like haunted by him. He seems to be this kind of like imaginary presence in her life who keeps like showing up, you know, bringing her comfort. It's also queer, which we love. And it seems like a classic kind of teenage story. It's giving me kind of the vibes of like Solitaire, maybe All the Bright Places, kind of stuff like that. I like it so far. Really easy to read because of the short kind of sections. I'm gonna give this a 7. Haven't looked at this book in 5 years. Gonna give it a 7. Okay, the next book that I'm going to try out is Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. I have read The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw, and I was gifted this a very long time ago by a subscriber, and I have always said I was gonna read it in the winter. Ooh, okay. And I don't know what it's about, but there's a C.S. Lewis quote in the beginning, which is interesting. Let's see. There's a prologue that's just a page, so probably not the best gauge. There's a page break on page 14, so I think I will read up until then. I think there's witches, but I don't know anything else about it, and a Winterwood, maybe. So I have read the first 11 pages of I don't know, however many pages I said, of Winterwood, and I like the writing style a lot. I definitely feel the vibes. We're starting in like a Winterwood. It's called the Wickerwood, actually, in this book. We're following Nora as there's this boy died. Things are unsettled in the town, unsettling. And she is taking a walk with her dog in the Winterwood, and something happens. The vibes are good. The vibes are good. I like stories about witches. I'm gonna give this a 6. I'm gonna give it a 6. Solid 6. Next up, I have There Will Come a Darkness. I didn't remember that I own this book. We're finding out a lot about the books that I buy and that I don't read. This is a book, it's a fantasy, for sure. It's for sure a fantasy. It has a map. It has a signed bookplate. When the fuck did I get this book? What? Where did I get a signed bookplate? Okay, anyway, got a name I can't pronounce, so that's cool. The first part of the book is called Harbinger, and the first chapter is 8 pages. Perfect. Perfect length. I have no idea what this book is about. I don't even know why I bought it. All right, first chapter done. We have Flora, and she seems to be like an assassin. She kills a priest in the first chapter, and blood, trigger warning, blood. It seems like people, like she takes on this kind of persona. It seems she has kind of some sort of like disguise to herself so that she can do these things, like so that she doesn't get caught and like reprimanded for whatever the fuck she's doing. And it seems like she's doing this all in the name of saving her sister who is ill, and by killing people it's helping, and this is the 14th person she's killed. So what would I give this? It wasn't giving me politics, it wasn't giving me background, it wasn't giving me world building. What do I give it? Oh my god, a 3. Give it a 3. Probably 3. I don't think so. Next up we have definitions of indefinable things. I was so excited when I got this book, and like, why haven't I read it? This was compared to All the Bright Places, and that's why I bought it. And then did I read it? Absolutely not, because why would I read a book? Chapter 1 also ends on page 8. This is about 2 people that meet. This is a young adult. 2 people that find friendship and maybe romantic relationship in the midst of dealing with their mental illness. It says on Stevia's run to pick up her Zoloft, Reggie meets Snake. So love that. This is cute. Okay, this is cute. This first chapter is just as the little tiny like one sentence that I read would entail. My dog is barking. It is when Reggie and Snake meet, and they meet at a CVS picking up their prescriptions, and they have a cute little, like, they don't have a meet cute per se, I guess, but like they have a little conversation about being on Auntie D's, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I like our main character Reggie so far. Like, she is very like unfazed, unflappable. She's kind of just like an unconcerned queen. Snake, I don't know about Snake. I don't know why his name is Snake, to be age. There's a sentence in the front cover and I just got concerned. I'm gonna give this an 8. I'm gonna give this an 8. Couple more on the YA contemporary bandwagon. Geekerella. Didn't know I have this. Mostly only read Ashley Poston's adult works, but this is like a classic. I believe it's a Cinderella retelling about a fangirl, a geek, if you will, going to a convention for geeks. It starts on page 9. So how am I supposed to know how long this chapter is? Oh, whatever. I'm gonna read the first chapter. Seems like it's gonna be dual POV from Elle, who is our main character's perspective, and then Darren, who is our other perspective. This reminds me of something, and I don't know what it is. Do I know what it is? I don't know. So we have Danielle, who's Elle, that's her name, and she is the Cinderella. Like, she does the chores and the dishes and the whatever for her stepmother and evil stepsisters. But her thing is, like, she writes fan fiction, she wants to write screenplays, and she's like really into this one show that is getting a reboot. And that's where I think this is our love interest on the back. Our love interest comes in, and he is going to star in the reboot. And she's not really happy about that. And that's kind of what the first chapter is about. I'm gonna give it a 4. Geekiness is a little too much for me. I think there's like a lot of references that are just kind of like, huh? I don't know if I care. And also, I just don't know how much I love a Cinderella retelling that's not another Cinderella story, because I love another Cinderella story, like Selena Gomez, Drew Seeley, like what are you gonna say? But this one is just not, it's not feeling fresh to me. Bone Crier's Moon, crazy. Sometimes I get so surprised by the things that I own. This is, I think, of romantasy, so that's why I kept it, because I was like, I believe this relationship is like, he's gonna die. Bone Criers have a secret duty to okay, yeah. So she has to find and kill the guy who she's like supposed to love. Obsessed, like obsessed. I don't remember like hearing anything about this book. I think it's a duology, but I also could be wrong. And the first chapter is 13 pages. What a freaking jam-packed first chapter. I don't know why this guy is on the cover, because he doesn't seem to be the main character, but it seems like this is like a friendship story. Like, even though it's like gonna have this whole like she has to kill the true love, whatever. This is Elise. Eilis. And Sabine's not even on the freaking cover, so like rude. But Sabine's the first perspective that we get, and they're best friends, and Sabine seems to be like, she seems to be like the kind of like sidekick character, which is interesting that she's the first perspective. Like I find that to be an interesting choice. Elise seems to be more outgoing, more courageous. I don't know, she seems to be the main character. But anyway, and they in the first chapter are trying to kill a shark. Like Elise basically needs like 3 of this certain type of bone in order to then get to the next step of then killing her true love. Why? This is what they do. I don't know. I'm gonna give it a 6 or a 7. I'm gonna give it a 6. The next book I have here is Kindred. Okay, it seems that there's a prologue. It's giving prologue. It's giving, also I'm not telling you what this is about. It's giving prologue in the first chapter. So I'm gonna read the prologue in the first chapter. Okay, right off the bat, giving this an 8. Giving this an 8. Whoa. Okay. I don't even know like how, because like the first chapter, the prologue in the first chapter don't tell me what I thought the synopsis of this book was. So I don't know if I should tell you the synopsis of what I think this book is about, because it doesn't happen in the first chapter. So I'm like, this is published by Beacon Press. Beacon Press, hire me. First of all, first published as a hardcover by Doubleday, and then published in paperback. So they sold the paperback rights to Beacon Press. That's kind of crazy. Okay, sorry. I've read short stories by Octavia E. Butler, but I haven't read this book. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you what the first chapter is about, because that's all I know really, like for a fact. So we have Dana, our main character, and she is starting to experience something on her 26th birthday where she vanishes for a time and is somewhere else. We don't know where. And it starts where she is just like having conversation with her husband or her boyfriend, and then she like appears by a river and saves a boy from drowning, and then she gets sucked right back into like her house, her apartment, and her husband's like, where were you? Like you literally vanished for a couple seconds. She's like, seconds? Like I thought it was minutes. And like, where the heck did I go? Like what was that? And so I think she's going to kind of flash back and forth, and we're gonna find out more of like where it is that she's like transporting to. I was gonna say apparate, but that's the Harry Potter word. But yeah, like where's she going? What is the story there? And like, why is this happening? And the prologue opens with like someone's in jail and someone's like hurt, and she's badly hurt, and like, yeah, things are very like, I don't know what's going on and I very much want to find out what's going on. And this was turned into a series, and I have to read it. I have to read it. Next book is This Is Where the World Ends. Also don't know what this book is about. It seems like it's told in before and after chapters. Whoa, what is this? Pretty. Okay, so the first chapter is told in after. Yeah, there's like journal entries that look like this, but that's like 10 pages. So I'm gonna read that. I'm intrigued. So we have Janny and Micah, and we start with them being kids, and Janny is moving like down the street, down the road, across the neighborhood, whatever. And they're like, this is the end. Like, this is the end of us. And like, they're like, no. Like, I don't know which one's saying which. But then that's over. That one, like 2 pages is over. And Micah has been in an accident, some sort of accident. We don't know what's happened, but he's in the hospital, and he just keeps asking like, where's Janny? And we just don't know what happened. Like, we just don't know. There's a Kirkus review on the back, which is kind of crazy to me. I'm sorry, my like brain is coming out today. Something about my brain. Who published this book? Let's find out. It's in 12-point Garamond. Fantastic. Okay, this was published in 2016. Good to know, good to know. HarperCollins. Okay. I'm gonna give this a 7. Gonna give it a 7. The next book I have here is The Other Black Girl. This also got turned into a movie, series, something recently. I'm actually really excited about this book. It also has a prologue. Oh, a prologue. Something about a prologue. Okay, so it's 16 pages, including the prologue, and I will try my best to read all 16 of those pages. I really like this one. I really like this one. This one, not only did it mention Kindred, which, hello, just read the first chapter of that. I'm so intrigued. The prologue is starting in the 80s with this woman. I don't think we get her name. But she is very clearly like running from something. She's on a train, and someone like recognizes her for something that like happened apparently that was in the news, and she was like, that wasn't me, but like it was definitely her. And we don't know what that is, like what the scandal is there. But then going back to like our present timeline, and like the actual chapter 1, this is blurred by Emily St. John Mandel. Amazing. Anyway, sorry. Back to the plot. Our present timeline is set in 2018, I believe. And it's set at, what is the publishing company called? Wagner Books. It's at Wagner Books in Manhattan. And we have Nella, and she seems like, I think she's the only, yeah, it's the only black girl at Wagner Books. And she is getting the inkling that another black editor editor or black staff member has been hired. And yeah, that's kind of all we get. I don't know how she feels about it. I don't know what the dynamic is going to be. I don't know anything about that. But I really like how this is written. It is super intriguing. I love books about publishing. Okay, I really like how this is written. I'm already really liking the main character. I just like her voice a lot and how she talks about other characters and like describes them. Yeah, it's just reminding me of a lot of books that I've really enjoyed this year. Should I give it a 9 or a 10? I'm gonna give it a 9. I'm gonna give it a 9. Next up, we have Una Out of Order. Una. And this one is about a woman who's like, ever since her 19th birthday, she has been living each year of her life out of order. So when she's 19, she's in the body and the life of her 60-year-old self. When she's 20, she's in the body and the life of her 45-year-old self. Something like that. And I've heard that this doesn't really explain that phenomenon, but it just talks about what it's like to live with that, and that sounds really interesting to me. So obviously I haven't read it. This also has a prologue. Okay, what is it with all these books having prologues? This is a 1-page prologue. So for what is that? It's like 20 pages. So I'm gonna read the first 12 pages. Okie dokie. So first 12 pages of Una Out of Order, Ona. The prologue is kind of like this retrospective about how our main character feels about living her life out of order, and it's like exhausting. It's really like weighing on her. It is a lot. And then we begin with her 18th birthday, and it seems, or not her 18th birthday, her 19th birthday, excuse me, her 19th birthday, and it seems that once she turns 19, that's when this starts happening. So it's at her birthday party, and you're just kind of getting introduced to like her life at 18, 19. I think, and her birthday's on New Year's. I'm gonna give it a 6. This is a book I've started. House of Salt and Sorrow, I have started. I started this years ago and didn't finish it, obviously. But it's a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, which is why I kept it, because I love the 12 Dancing Princesses. Barbie the 12 Dancing Princesses is, in fact, my favorite Barbie movie. It's like a dark retelling, and we're gonna reread the first chapter because I have read it. Or maybe I'll read the first 2 chapters because they're kind of really short. Okay, now I remember what this book is about. There's 12 princesses, but now there are only 8? 9? 8? I just read it. Oh my god. There are much less. And they're being picked off one by one. These sisters are getting killed. They're getting killed. And like, I think our main character is gonna start like investigating and trying to figure out what's happening to her sisters so that like it doesn't keep happening. It doesn't happen to her, yada yada. I'm gonna give this a 5. Let's break it up. Let's break it up and go with Once More with Feeling. Maybe, have I read the first chapter of this? It also has a prologue! Fuck a prologue. At the end of today, all you're gonna know is that I hate a prologue. And the first chapter is 27 pages. Hello? There's a fake article from the Rolling Stone, and then there's an overture, which is like a prologue. So I'm gonna read that. This is a little bit weird. So it starts with like this Rolling Stone article about introducing us to Katie Rose, my apologies. And she basically didn't make much of herself. She was in this show that it's giving like Mickey Mouse Club with this guy, and they were dating and they were like pop sensations. He was like in a boy band and she was whatever. And then they broke up because she allegedly cheated on him with this other guy from the Mickey Mouse Club, whatever. And so like her career went down the drain. Then the prologue or the overture is like years in the past. It's like when she's at summer camp, and like this is way before she was famous, way before she did anything. And she's just like at this theater camp and then meets the guy who she allegedly cheated on her boyfriend with. I don't know. I do not know. I'm gonna give it, here's my problem. Like, I really did like this author's other book, but like, is it selling it to me? I don't think it is. I'm gonna give it a 5. Next we have The Secret Book. Next we have The Secret Book of Flora Lee, and this is another historical fiction set in 1939 about a girl who finds a book. Wouldn't you have guessed it? First 12 pages is the first 2 chapters, so we're gonna read that. It's also set in England, so go me. This book is giving book. It is giving I'm a bookish girl. And so the first chapter is like in 1940, and it's in Oxfordshire, and it's just about Flora and her sister Hazel. Forgot their names for a second. And then the second chapter is set in 1960, and it's about Hazel. She works at a bookshop. She's leaving the bookshop to get this like higher bookshop job where she can like touch special editions and like whatever. And we find out that like Flora disappeared. Oh, and she finds this book. I'm gonna give it a 3. Okay, my last book I have here, because I'm not gonna do all the Mistborn books, is The Final Empire, because I haven't read a Mistborn book. But I have all of them. But the first chapter is 16 pages, so I'm gonna read like 12 of those pages. Fun fact about me, I don't care about a map, and I don't care about a prologue, and yet every single one of these books has a prologue. Tell me why I can't just be the first chapter. I gotta be so real, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. I've got character names, I've got lots of words I'm unfamiliar with. Brandon Sandy just kind of like dropped us into this world and was like, figure it out, figure it out. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe I could read the back. I could probably read what it says on the back and be less confused. However, I'm giving it a 6. I think I'm gonna read this eventually. I don't think I'm gonna read it in between reading the Stormlight Archives, but I do think I'm gonna read that eventually, just not right now, and I'm just very confused. Those are all of the books on my physical TBR, but in general I think this just made me want to read my physical books more, which is always a good sign because I am clearly very bad at it. So I need to do that. Hopefully I will get on that in the new year and for the rest of this year. But yeah, let me know how many books are on your physical TBR, if you would ever read the first chapter of all of them. If there are too many, I understand, because this genuinely took me so long. Could I have read an entire book in the time it took me to read the first chapter of all these books? Yes, I could have, but we are not focusing on that because now I'm excited to read the books that I feel like I'm gonna like more. I feel like I could have done like 5-star predictions at this point because like I'm more excited to read certain ones. I don't know. Anyways, that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to all the things, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!